For me, I had to really try and find different ways of being able to train myself and try and get a bit more inspiration from other sources. A way of being able to bring a community together, bring people together and knowledge together to be able to share. And that's the main thing that I really want to do with Fight Creative.
Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of the Fight Creative podcast. I'm your podcast host, Seb Muirhead, and it is only fitting to have this man as our very first guest. He is a martial artist, a stunt performer, a fight choreographer, the creator of Fight Creative itself, and a genuinely great person. Some of his credits include Thor, Love and Thunder, Thor Ragnarok, Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, Alien Covenant, The Wolverine, Shazam, Nautilus, Preacher, and Godzilla x Kong The New Empire. Chan Griffin, thank you so much for being the first guest, Chan.
Thank you so much for hosting this and making this all happen, Sid.
No, it wouldn't be happening without you, genuinely, Chan. So thank you for the opportunity. So we are doing this through Fight Creative, which is your company. Would you perhaps like to have a little bit of a introduction of what Fight Creative is?
Yeah, so for me, I grew up in Adelaide and there wasn't really much stunt work or stunt people here to train with. So for me, I had to really try and find different ways of being able to train myself and try and get a bit more inspiration from other sources. YouTube wasn't a huge thing back then either. So I had to travel a lot to be able to learn more and to be able to understand more about the stunt industry and stunt fighting. So I've always found it really hard as someone who's a bit more remote. And what I wanted to be able to do is help people that are in remote areas or don't have access to good quality instruction, a way of being able to learn from some of the things that I would have wanted to learn back when I had no one to learn from.
I think that's such a good resource as well. And I was saying this just before the podcast started as well, that stunt performing seems like such a difficult industry to break into because there are so many different, pieces of information floating around out there, but there's nothing concise and there's nothing to really show you how to break into the industry successfully and safely, I think, a lot of the time as well. So having Fight Creative, especially some of the stuff that I've seen come out from it, is so appreciated. And I mean, coming from yourself as well, Chan, it is a wealth of knowledge. So thank you for putting that out there. I know it's still fairly early on in its lifespan as well, so I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more stuff that's coming out, but it is a genuinely great resource to have. I live in Melbourne, which has hundreds really talented stunties, but for people that are living far more remote than even myself, I think it is such a welcome change in the industry as well. Yeah,
thank you. It does mean a lot. It is very daunting putting yourself out there. I'm a little bit more on the introvert side of things, so I don't really like putting myself out there as much. But I do feel like I do have some things that I can share and a way of being able to bring a community together and bring people together and knowledge together to be able to share. And that's the main thing that I really want to do with Fight Creative, to be able to share the knowledge as well as learn myself and get other people to teach and learn as well, and build the industry in a positive sense,
Because Australia is comparatively such a small industry, I think that being able to showcase some Australian performers, I mean, maybe overseas just through certain educational videos or certain educational resources that you have is, definitely welcome. I'll be honest with you. It's so nice to see, I call Australia my home now. I'm originally from Scotland, but it's nice to see homegrown talent shining everywhere.
Yes, definitely. And my, mentor, Kyle Gardner, he's always told me that he's always had the vision to be able to try and invest in people here in Australia so that we can build the industry from the ground up here a little bit more instead of always have to get imports in to do the job. So he has shared so much with me and being able to invest so much in me to be able to bring other people up to within Australia.
love to see that in the industry as well. And I would like to actually touch on Kyle Gardner a little bit later on as well. But we're going to start off firstly by getting a little bit more of a background on yourself. So I was just wanting to ask first off, what is the martial arts background, the physical movement background, even if you have a performance background that brought you into this industry?
Yeah, for sure. I mainly didn't do much martial arts growing up. I was more into sports, a lot of different sports. I would try all these different things, but never really stick at one. And then when I was 14, I started a little bit of karate. And then when I was 15, my parents said, hey, do you want to go on a student exchange? And I said, oh, yeah, of course. I just want to get out of my house, get away from my parents because they were very sort of overbearing at the time. And they were like, oh, where do you want to go? And I was like, oh, maybe America, because I'd been there before. And then they're like, hey, how about you go to Brazil? And I was like, Brazil? I don't even know where that is. So I decided to go there. And then as I went there, I was introduced to a martial art called capoeira. And as soon as I started capoeira, I just fell in love with it. So at the age of 15, I couldn't really speak any Portuguese or anything like that. I learnt everything there. And then I just eventually just was obsessed with it and would train all the time with the capoeira. And then over the years, I came back to Australia and there wasn't many people in Adelaide training capoeira. So I just taught a few friends and then I'd just save money by working McDonald's or Woolworths or whatever I could and save all the money I had and then go and travel to Brazil again to learn more and then just kept doing that back and forth. So I went to Brazil like 6 times over the past whatever years and started training that. And then after that, I started training with Sifu Nino Pilla in 2002 and he teaches Junfan Kung Fu, Jeet Kune Do, Kali, and Silat and Muay Thai and some grappling and locking systems. So from 2002, I started training with him. And then 2003, I did a seminar with Guru Dan Inosanto, which is Sifu Nino's teacher. And then I just was so inspired by him and wowed by him and that I wanted to just keep continuing this martial arts journey as much as I can, delving in different arts and things. And Sifu Nino also had a really big interest in film. So he would do a lot of film stuff and edit stuff back when he was younger as well. So he started teaching a little bit more of the martial arts for film stuff early on, back in the early 2000s. For live performances, he taught some people to be able to go over to Hong Kong and do some performances over there. And so I sort of started doing some of those classes as well. And then it wasn't until about 2006 that I started really thinking, oh, maybe stunts could actually be a thing. I studied architecture in school, in university, and got my degree in that, but it was just never really my thing. I always loved teaching capoeira, and I always thought that martial arts teaching was my road. But then, in 2006, I was asked to do a commercial where they had to do some martial arts and some flipping and stuff, and I was like, I can do a bit of both. And it was by a friend, Brendan Guerin, who was stunt graded at the time. And then I went over to Melbourne and met Chris Anderson, who was the stunt coordinator there, and he was the one who gave me my first shot, which I'm always so grateful. Yeah, so grateful. I think he's a legend in this industry here because he's given so many people an opportunity, to get in.
Still to this day as well, and I don't think Chris would mind me saying this, he's getting it on a little bit as well. He's a little bit on the older side now, but still giving people their first day on set a lot of the time. Literally just got awarded last year the MEAA Lifetime Achievement Award as well for everything that he's done for the stunt community in Australia. So yeah, he's been a massive help and influence to a lot of people, and certainly in Australia, but even more so in the Melbourne stunt community.
Definitely. He not only gave me my first job, after my first job, years later, he actually gave me my first full-time job too. So I'm very grateful for everything that he has done for me. But, you know, that job really inspired me to get into stunts and get graded. And, you know, to want to do stunts and then to jump to actually getting graded in Australia is a big jump. Like, it's not just, oh yeah, I just want to train a few times and now I'm graded. It's quite a process.
That would be
which is
preferable,
great.
to be honest. But yeah, it is. Having gone through it myself fairly recently as well, it is definitely a lot of hard work, which I think is good and bad in certain respects. It can really put certain people off, but it can also weed out people are maybe just in it for the cool title of stunt performer. But did you come from any sort of a performance background as well, or was it purely just martial arts making the transition into the stunt world?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually interested a fair bit in acting. And early on, before even I was doing stuff with Nino, I was auditioning. So I was like in the last 2 or 3 people to be a Power Ranger, one of the main actor Power Ranger people in New Zealand for Japanese Power Rangers. But I just missed out to a white guy. So I don't think they were quite ready for this. So unfortunately.
It's got better in recent years.
Yeah. I mean, I've just had a lot of close calls over the years. I am with an acting agency and I do enjoy the performance side of things. And I've done lots of different workshops and had different acting tutors as well. And I really think it's a very valuable thing for stunt performers to be able to access and to try, you know. It is a bit daunting because it is a little bit different, but it does come around and merge really well with the stunt performing.
There does seem to be a slight disconnect between acting or performing and stunt performing, which I know a lot of coordinators are certainly concentrating on just now, especially with the up and coming generation or the newer generation getting into stunts, to really drill in that everybody is a stunt actor regardless of what you're doing as far as performance goes or what grade you are. In Australia, you have to be graded to a certain level before you can do certain things on set. So it starts off with stunt actor provisional, stunt actor, assistant stunt coordinator. So everybody is essentially a stunt actor regardless, because you need to be a stunt performer that can act. To a certain degree, you don't have to be doing 10-minute monologues, but like what you were saying, it is, I think, necessary for everyone from what I've seen anyway.
Yes, definitely. And the more that I get people in to be able to do different previs and to perform on set and things like that, the more I see the value in people who do have awareness over their body and their facial expressions and can adjust really well to camera, to understanding where the camera is, what the lens sizes are, how their movements should be within each frame, how to fill the frame, how to be more subtle, and being able to make the sort of gradual shifts or the extreme shifts depending on what the stunt coordinator or the director require from you.
And also the camera can see if you're uncomfortable as well. You might be able to do the most amazing flips, but if it can see in your face that you're not comfortable just before you do it because there's a camera and 20 people watching you, it's something that's hard to train out of yourself, especially if you're not on set that often. But it is a necessity, I would say, just from the very small amount that I've seen. Do you find that stunt performers are moving towards that a little bit more now, being able to relax on camera as far as performance goes? Are you finding that it's maybe something that's moving away from stunt performers because people are getting so used to being brought in for specific stunts now, just for their specific talents?
Yeah. To be honest, I feel like every person is very different, and every single person has their own great things about them, and then other things that they could really work on too. So I acknowledge for myself that there's so much for me to still learn and to just build upon and constantly work on as well, whether it be in the acting side, whether it be in the stunt performing side, whether it be in the skills or the knowledge side. There's just so much out there. It's just filtering through the stuff that isn't as useful and getting to the stuff that is really going to help your situation a lot. But coming back to the acting side of things, I definitely feel like people really need to work on it a little bit more. And myself included. Like, for example, one of the last movies that I was on, being able to not just do action in one way. This is the way that Griffin moves. You know, you have to also, as a stunt double, be able to emulate a double or like your actor, and be able to watch them and replicate the way that they move, the feeling behind their movement, and be able to adjust accordingly and have enough body awareness and facial awareness to be able to bring those things to life and be able to adjust it as well. And I feel like the only way that you can get those adjustments is through someone directing you and you listening and trying, but also watching it on camera so that you have another reference and seeing what you see that you need to adjust, and then also getting feedback on that footage from a third party going, oh, did you see this? And you're like, oh, actually I didn't. There's something else that I needed. But, you know, there's a lot of different ways of being able to access those sorts of things. But in my experience, some people are a lot easier through audio direction, and then they can go, okay, I want you to feel like a stick when you're doing this action. I want you to feel really sort of straight up and stiff like a pin, okay? And everything that you're doing has to be more like that, you know, if you were being a robot or something like that, right? Yeah. And then some people can actually emulate that from just the feeling and internalizing the audio of that. Or some people can even be more abstract and go, well, I want you to feel like the color blue, right? But some people can actually make that happen and happen really well. But then some people go, oh, that guy's on crack. What's he talking about? You know?
I think that's one thing that's a big thing as well, is learning to work with different directors or learning to work with different stunt coordinators. The type of direction that you get can vary wildly. Even like what you're saying there is, I understand when you're saying be still, be stiff. And if somebody told me to act like the color blue, I'm like, that is so open to interpretation. I don't know if there's anything I could do which would remotely like mirror that. How have you found working with all, I mean, not even just Australian stunt coordinators or directors, but American stunt coordinators, American directors? How have you found bringing or taking direction on from a wealth of different people? Are there any sort of tips or tricks that you can do to really ground yourself, and like, are there any big differences as well, I suppose, between the two industries or between the two countries?
For sure. Non-judgment and compassion, I think, are the big things. And, you know, I feel like that, like what I was saying, and I completely understand what you're saying as well. Like, most people that I know in the stunt industry would go like, if I gave them the instruction, oh, can you like just make this fight a little bit more blue? They would just look at me like I was just insane. But that being said, if I was that person who only knows how to express my wishes to you, if I was a director and I said, I want you to make this fight look a little bit more blue, I wouldn't go, what? Are you on crack? I wouldn't say that, right? I would try and find a way of internalizing that and processing that in my head and then figuring that out, right? So for me, it is actually about trying all these different methods, all these different ways, even if you think that, like, secretly inside going, this is crazy. What am I doing? This doesn't make any sense to me.
Yes.
But being open to it and non-judgmental, because the more that you can actually access different ways of people giving you those types of information, the easier it is for you to be able to process it faster and get the result you need to when you're on set.
Did you find yourself when you were younger as well being embarrassed to try and interpret those kind of directions, or even trying to be, let's use the example of being more blue? Did you find that played into it? And then as you, I don't know, maybe became a little bit more experienced, a little bit older as well, you maybe weren't so worried about it, or you just got a bit more of an understanding now from what is expected of you?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like over time, when I first started in the industry, I'd trained all these different martial arts. I could do all these different flips. I had some reasonable skill level in the martial arts and the acrobatics. But when it came to actually performing on a camera or in front of coordinators, the movement came out stiff, or the movement didn't come out like what it should have, or what they wanted on screen, and I couldn't adapt it. And so what I really had to do is go back to the drawing board, film myself, like what I was telling you, film myself doing it, get other people's opinion, get people to watch me live, give me adjustments, and different kinds of people too, so that what I felt internally started coming out externally, and I could make those shifts a lot faster with myself. And it took a long process and a long time to be able to do that, but that's sort of, I feel like, the way for me that has worked, and the way that I feel like will work for other performers who are starting out too, that constant evolution is really, really important, and not settling for just one way of being able to move.
Absolutely, because I find a lot of the time with traditional martial arts as well, there is just one way of doing it. You have to do it this way from what you're taught from your sifu or from your sensei as well. That's the specific form, the specific kata. But then moving on to set, even maybe if it's quote unquote wrong as well, to do it that way, that's maybe just what the director wants, and you have to be a little bit more malleable with that. What were some of the other big changes that you found going from a traditional martial arts background into, let's say, fighting and action on camera?
Yeah. For me, I felt like the actual reaction side of things, and the hitting and the control side of things as well, and the timing of things were a little bit different. Obviously, with the martial arts, there's like so many different ways of training, and my sifu Nino is such a great person to break things down and to be able to give you faster way of access. From that man. Yeah, just amazing. But I feel like with a lot of those things in martial arts, you do hit them a bit harder than what you should when you're first starting out, and you've got to learn how to navigate that and be a bit softer, but also chambering the punch and making things bigger, so that you're not just making things too precise. So you can loosen things up and bring different characters to the different fight styles and the different techniques that you're using. I found all of that things that I had to continuously work on over time.
So coming from that martial arts background, did you find that, like you were saying, chambering the punch, learning to maybe not connect quite as hard, even if you are wanting to connect, were some of the most helpful things that you worked on? Was there anything else that you found particularly helpful moving from the martial artist background into the stunt fighting?
Yeah, I think like just being able to relax as well, like relax with being hit, or going with things a little bit more, relaxing in the punches and the kicks and whatever movement that you're doing. It's hard because when you're doing a fight scene, you go and then you give them the feedback, oh, you just need to relax a little bit more. It doesn't really help. It makes it almost tense up a little bit more too. So
people start throwing with open fists, which aren't fists anymore, and they look very complacent. So it's a hard piece of feedback to take on board. I have certainly noticed that myself.
It is. So I mean, for you, for for performers, my advice would be trying to understand or make a checklist for yourself on if someone is going to tell you to relax, making a mental checklist in your body of how you can do that in different ways. Does he mean relax my thoughts? Does he mean relax my timing? Does he mean relax my shoulders? Does he mean relax my arms? Does he want me to go faster? Does he want me to go slower? Is that a part of it? Does he want me to chamber more? Some of those things, if you just chamber more, will make you look more relaxed. But he can't.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the actual person who's instructing you doesn't know how to break that down, or doesn't know how to tell you. All they know how to say and all they can see, because they're so focused in the moment, is like, can you just relax a bit more when you're doing the fight scene?
Yep.
So if you as a performer have different tools of being able to break those things down, and some of the most common sort of difficulties or common things that people say to you, and find different checklists on how to approach those things, you'll be able to change in the way that they need you to a lot faster.
When you were saying earlier, as well as recording yourself, watching yourself back and getting feedback from valued other sources, you can check off, like, either mentally, or you can write it down or speak to somebody as well. When somebody's saying relax, you're like, okay, they're meaning relax my eyebrow, or like my brow. They mean relax my shoulders. Because when we all step onto set and it's quite heightened, emotionally, and you're a bit more stressed, you tend to fall into the old ways. Do you find that recording yourself and watching yourself back, you're able to manage yourself better in that way as well?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And, even repeating back to the stunt coordinator or whoever's directing you, what they just said can also help sort of give you a little, egg them on to give you a bit more information, or you can ask them in that way, but then add on a little bit more so that you can maybe go in the direction of what you're trying to interpret from what they're saying as well.
Especially for starting off performers or people younger in their careers, they're very scared to ask questions as well. They just want to turn up and do it perfectly first time. So you're saying open up a bit more of a line of dialogue, like everyone's there to help each other, obviously, and everybody wants the best from it. You're quite within your rights to ask the coordinator or the assistant coordinator for a little bit of clarification in those respects.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things that is difficult is, when you're first starting out, is navigating who you should ask and what you should ask, because it can be a hindrance, and it can be something that isn't relevant. So you've just got to make sure that you go through the process of really thinking a little bit deeper before you ask, and then thinking about who you should approach about asking for those things as well. So if there is something that I want to breach with, a stunt coordinator or an assistant coordinator or something a little bit higher up that I'm just not sure about, then I'll talk to another fellow performer about it first and go, oh, man, I just don't know. I have really sort of hurt my ankle in this thing. I think it's going to be okay, but I don't know whether I should talk to the coordinator. What do you think? Or like, oh man, this scene is really hard. I just wish I could just take my gloves off in between takes or something. How are you feeling or whatever, so that you can sort of get a little bit more of an understanding from people who are on the same level as you or lower than you in the food chain. And then you can see whether they agree, oh yeah, maybe we should ask someone a little bit higher up or broach the subject,
Or if they have a much better answer, which you maybe haven't thought about straight away as well, where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. So you're not bothering people that have so much more on their plate as well. Because when you do step onto set, there is a million different moving parts. And I mean, it's terrifying for the first time, especially when you've not got a background in performance or a background maybe necessarily in acting or working on sets. Is there anything you particularly wish you knew before you stepped onto set for the first time?
Yeah, I think for me, probably like every single other other stunt performer, the first time stepping on set, you're so excited and you're so jazzed up and like, wow, this is amazing, like deer in headlights. But you're also very scared because you don't know what to expect and what to do and how to ask for things, or if I should even ask for things. And generally, like when you're first performing, you just don't really. If you hurt yourself or if something happens, and you just sort of try and hide away from those things. I think it just comes with part and parcel, to be honest, with the job. Like people are always going to do that. No matter what I say, if I say you should still open up a bit more. Sometimes people will just open up too much and go, oh, I'm sorry I was late. I had to feed my cat or something, but it won't happen again. And you waffle on about a big story to the coordinator who's obviously really busy. I'm not saying that this is something that you should actually broach with the coordinator, So it's kind of like, don't open up too much. Make sure things are very professional.
Always turn up early as well, to be honest with you, with stunts. Never turn up late.
Early.
Don't even turn up on time. Yeah, if you're on time, you're late. It was the classic saying in the stunt world. But having had a few more days on set now, you've progressed yourself into, I'm going to say, probably one of the best fight choreographers, certainly in Australia. How did you find the transition from maybe just a stunt performer or somebody that was working part-time, full-time on sets into somebody that's being asked now to choreograph entire fight scenes for massive films, your Shazams, you've got all your massive ones that you've been brought on for purely your fight choreographing talents? Did you find that was a transition that kind of happened naturally? Was it something you really had to push for a bit more, or was it people were seeking you out as soon as they saw you a little bit?
Yeah, good question, and thank you for the very kind compliment. I feel like there was a bit of a gap in the market at the time in Australia. There wasn't that many fight choreographers, certainly no fight coordinators back when I was training. And it was something that I was always interested in because I loved martial arts. I loved martial arts fighting. And I also really loved the filming aspect of things and creating different fight scenes and things like that too. So I just experimented a lot back here with the few friends I had, and then just kept developing that. And then I guess over time, I worked on a couple more sort of low budget things, and also worked on some of the bigger films as a performer, and I could see some of the other fight choreographers' work. My first sort of real big exposure to fight choreography was on I, Frankenstein, which was my first full-time job with Chris Anderson. The late Brad Allen was on there with Paul Andriowski, and they were designing the fights at the time. And, that was a very big eye-opener to me, and it really set me up really well, I think, to be able to understand what it sort of took to choreograph something and to create something really beautiful, because their process was just beautiful.
Learning from people like that as well. Obviously, you're seeing the late Brad Allen, who has such an amazing visual style as well when he's doing a fight scene. Did you find that you were able to learn on set or watching his material more?
I learn wherever I am, really, for sure. But definitely watching him and being under them, like Paul Andriowski and Brad Allen, being a part of that process of designing and creating and things, it really taught me so much in the previs world of what you need to do to be able to get to the next level, to be a fight choreographer and things like that. So that was a really amazing experience, and seeing the way that they did things. And then also going to after that, I went and worked on the Wolverine with 8711, Kyle Gardner. That was the first job I really sort of worked with him. And I worked on that, which was amazing. And just seeing those boys doing things and creating things and putting things together, the way they moved, the way they trained, their attitude towards it all, was very inspiring to me. And, you know, I got along with them really well when I was working there, and they said, you know, if you're ever in LA, please come and train with us or whatever. So that was a huge opportunity for me back then. And I was like, okay. So I saved up more money, worked in another cafe, and jumped over there, you know, and was able to train with 87 for a couple of months and help them with some previs as well. So that was a big eye-opener for me too.
That's fantastic to hear as well. And having people give you that feedback as well in person, that your work is appreciated, is such a massive thing. And kind of, I mean, honestly, what we're all working towards anyway. I was going to ask something as well, and I know you kind of said at the start of the podcast as well, everybody gets asked what's the most important story parts of a fight scene and whatever the sort of general answers are that people usually give for this stuff. Are there any specific lists or any specific things that you look for in a compelling fight scene? And I want to use the word compelling as well, because anyone can make a fight scene, but it really takes something special to make it engaging and make you genuinely worried about the peril, the intent of the fight scene, the outcome of the fight scene as well. Is there anything that you have? I know that you do a lot of breakdowns with the Fight Creative as well, saying the list of things that you look for. But is there anything, that you specifically look for in a fight scene when you're either creating one or even watching one?
Yeah, for sure. Very good question. I mean, for me, I think everyone is so personal with what movies and what scenes that they love, right? But it is also, for me, identifying why I love it. So I'll watch something or watch a film or whatever, and then I'll just enjoy it first of all. And then I'll go back onto it and go, why did I enjoy it? And did other people enjoy it? And what do people see in it? And what do I see in it? And why is it something that is drawing me in? And why is it something that I'm thinking about again? You know, and so then I just ask those questions and then go back and watch that fight scene and then figure out some of the different dot points of what makes it compelling to me.
Do you have any examples of what the thought points might be, or is it purely often an emotional basis as well? I know a lot of the time in performance, especially acting, it's what makes you feel a certain way at a certain point. Do you mark those points out, or is it a bit more mechanical in the way that you're like, okay, this made a lot of sense to do it here, the way they sold this, the camera angle, the movement, the intent of the performer?
Yeah, definitely. And like, I think the process of like what I was saying before about non-judgment is really important in the beginning of what you're doing, and non-judgment of the way that they use their cameras, the way that they choreograph, the way that the character creates something first, and just observing how and why. And then from there, so for instance, why does this character make a choice of making all of his lines very clean when he moves, very precise when he moves? And there's nothing that is out of order, or there's nothing that doesn't make any sense. It's a very methodical way of fighting. Why does he move like that? It's not about asking why yet. It's more about observing that that's what's happening, you know, from your standpoint. Similarly enough, like, the environment, how much of the environment do they use? So having all of these questions, how much of the environment do they use? Not, it's so great that they're using the environment. Oh, it's so terrible that they're not actually using the environment to be able to make this fight scene better. It's more about observing that. And then it's, you know, observing the other actors' interaction with that actor and their choices that they make in their character. And then it's also thinking about the DOP or the cinematography with the lighting that they use, the different kinds of camera movements, even the lenses, the composition of the shot, and why they're using, it's not, at the moment, it's not why they're using it, it's like, what are they doing? Okay, and just observing it, you know? And so from all of those different things, I think it's also seeing what the overall story is in the whole film and just breaking that down, and then breaking down each fight scene that they have in the film, or just even writing out the different fight scenes that they have. And then it's going into those fight scenes and going into the one that you're specifically looking at, and then seeing how they've done that and what the differences are between that fight scene and all the other fight scenes. And then going into that and then starting to have a look at the choices that they've made, if you agree with them, or if you think that they're a good choice, or if there's a better choice, or if there's, a choice that they've made that you completely thought was so unexpected but was amazing, and then just putting all of those elements together, I feel like it's not only about whether I like a fight scene and what's making it compelling to me. I'm constantly learning so much about just this one tiny fight scene in this one movie, because I've had a look at the whole picture and without judgment first,
I think that's such an interesting thing to say as well, because I know certainly a lot of stunt performers love to just break down that 3-minute, 5-minute fight scene standalone. They've maybe not even seen the entire film before. So you're saying come at it from a lot more bigger picture style thing as well, seeing how the fight scene leads in the story and the development of the characters and the development of the script. It's more of a part of the film rather than a cool 5-minute fight scene that people can watch on YouTube, which if that does happen, that's great anyway, don't get me wrong, but it's more servicing the bigger picture.
Yeah, so there is a very big difference for me between YouTube video or, like an Instagram or a TikTok video of fights to a movie or previs for fights. So I'm definitely going to elaborate a lot more in detail over the coming months on this in different ways in Fight Creative.
Yeah, great.
But I definitely feel like if you want to be successful on Instagram or TikTok or social media, there's definitely a certain way of doing that in the way that you create fights or a fight scene. And then there's or short form media. And then there's also a very different way of doing it for a movie and seeing that and seeing it as a whole and creating things for that medium as well.
That's such an interesting thing to say as well, because I think that you do see a lot of the up and coming or the younger generation purely leaning towards the social media or the short form videos, because that's what's accessible to a lot of us. So it's nice to hear that the script breakdown and the character analysis is still a big part of it for the major film projects too, because I enjoy both personally, but it's nice to know that does have its own place as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I have nothing against social media and what people are creating on there. I think it's genuinely so creative, and it's amazing to be able to get inspiration from different people who are creating things constantly on these platforms, different ways of moving, different ways of filming things and creating content. But I do feel like people can misconstrue it and mix it too much and mix too much of the social media side and say, oh, well, I'm successful on social media. How come I can't be a successful fight choreographer or coordinator on a set? They're very different things, I feel like. And
that's good to know.
I feel like you should work on both a little bit, but I definitely think you should actually work on the film side of things if you want longevity in that actual career of working in film.
I think that's a great piece of advice for people that are maybe a little bit more established in their careers as well. Now, for yourself, you have had such a long career. What are some pieces of advice that you may be able to share with people that are maybe deeper into their own careers as well? So not just starting out, they've got a few credits under their belt, they're working stunt actors, assistant stunt coordinators. What have you found has been most helpful to you after working in the industry for, a fair few years now, I'll be honest?
I constantly have to pull myself back a little bit, but I feel like once you're more established, you have to be even a little bit more careful of getting too complacent, you know. Guru Dan would always say that, never be too lazy to learn, never be too ignorant to learn, and never be too proud to learn. And I feel like if you have those things inside your head, whenever you come to set, regardless of whether you're a coordinator or whether you're a new performer, it will really help your career thrive, and your process as a human being, I think, as well.
Not even just in your not in your professional life, but your personal life as well. I think that's a very good mantra to have.
Yeah, I just always am trying to pull myself up a little bit on being too entitled for things. I will always try and assess the situation and go, was I like acting a little bit too, up my nose sort of thing? And I try and always pull myself back as much as I can, as much as needed, I guess, as well. Because, when you are coordinating or when you are a person of authority, being too much on the back foot can also bite you on the foot too. So you definitely need to be firm and clear, and but also compassionate. But when you're on set and you are a really seasoned performer, you like I have seen in the past, some people just expecting all these different things that you would just never ask for or never expect if you were just starting out as a performer as well, Of
course, yeah. And you wouldn't as well, but then like you were saying, people do get comfortable. They tend to come in, and if they are working with new performers as well, they expect so much more. And I've not seen it a lot myself, but it's definitely out there. So I think it's something to be wary of for the new performers, and then for the people that have started acting that way as well.
And I also think that people lose a little bit at the hunger to learn as well, and being a little bit too proud to learn different things as well. So as you get older in the performing world and things, there's obviously some things that I can't do anymore. I can't do a 720 backflip anymore or anything like that. But it's still being able to not be too afraid to put yourself out there and learn new things and make yourself look like a fool in front of other people who are, maybe a little bit lower on the food chain than you, because sometimes that, in a way, earns more respect. But at the same time, you do have to be some kind of figure. But as being a figure that people look up to, you also have to have extreme ownership over the faults and the mistakes that you make as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a very healthy way of looking at it as well. Again, not just professional, but in personal life too. Now, we did touch on Kyle Gardner a little bit earlier, and I know he's been such a massive proponent of your career. So I think that I might know the answer to this question next up anyway, but I'm going to ask it regardless. Who are some of the people you enjoy working with the most? And then maybe what do you look for in working with people? So what makes you want to work with someone again?
Yeah. You don't really get much of a choice when you're first starting out. That's for sure.
Just take anything.
No,
Yes.
No, you just take most things really. But I think over time you definitely find your niche of people, the people that you click with and enjoy working with and stuff as well. But for me, like I've been so fortunate to have worked with a fairly wide variety of different personalities and different people. And I've learned so much off of every single one of them. And it's like what I was saying before, just being non-judgmental and being open and learning from as many different styles as possible. Not only makes you more adaptable in understanding and interpreting things and getting a good job done, but it also sets me up or gives me things to think about later on when I do want to actually teach these things or want to pass some of this knowledge on to people in different ways, because then I can access a person not only by telling them that you should fight like the color blue, but yes, you should relax that right shoulder and then you should really chamber the punch with, and then put the fist in a certain way so that you can access different ways of doing things. Some people might just do it from going, you just need to go, oof, when you're doing it instead, that is more of an audio thing, but being able to have different ways of instructing people because of the experience of learning from all of these different coordinators has really helped me be a better performer, but also a better leader and teacher. I started off doing smaller fight choreography things with Reg Rawdink, and he gave me, some of my first opportunities to be fight choreographer and performing at the same time. And that sort of helped me wet my feet in that arena where the stakes were a little bit less because that was lower budget films. And I could teach the actors and try different things and then make mistakes, but they weren't so big or it wasn't such a big deal. And then as I kept going, I was able to get a little bit more experience and while still performing and things. And it just helped me really know what I needed to do to get ready to become a fight choreographer and then a fight coordinator. So, I went and worked with Brett Chan over in Malaysia for the first time. Like I went and trained over in Canada and I met him there and met some of his friends over there that worked with him a lot. And then he was good enough to give me a shot and say, oh, yeah, let's give you a shot. Let's try you out and we'll fly you over here tomorrow. Can you get here tomorrow? And how long am I going to be out there for, Brett? And maybe a week, maybe a couple of months, whatever. I don't know. We'll see. And then so, I hopped on a plane the day after and I was there for a couple of months and I got along really well with him and learned so many things and did so many things out of my comfort zone, like getting hit by horses and, just getting set on fire and, being in 40-degree heat and 50-degree heat and things. But there's so much stuff that I learned off of him and the team and the international team that he built and the whole team building side of things was just so beautiful, the way that he ran that team. It was just such a bonding experience. And then from there, I could take away some of that and implement that sort of idea and put it in the back of my head of like, oh, this is some of the things that I want to sort of implement if ever I was to do something like that, And then
I think that's great. Bringing all those pieces that you've learned from people and sort of amalgamating it into your own teaching style as well is such a healthy way of doing it as well. But what I've found the best teachers have is the little parts that work from everybody that they've enjoyed being under and then using that to teach or to work with people themselves.
Yeah, for sure. Like my one of the most famous capoeira teachers in the world, Mestre Bimba, he had, a variety of different people under him that started teaching, but all of it, the groups that came from him and all the actual people that learnt under him had wildly different styles and different ways of moving and wildly different ways of teaching it too. So in a way, I feel like a great teacher isn't one that just emulates, makes carbon copy structures of carbon copy, copies of that person and just makes them do exactly the way you do it. But they actually guide them into a way that they can reach their full potential in being able to pass on that information themselves, you know.
Such a valuable thing to find in a teacher, but then also find in yourself too. We'll start bringing this towards the end now, Chan. I've just got a couple more questions, which maybe are a little bit, I don't know, more about managing yourself as a person whilst working in the industry rather than the industry specifically itself. Now, it is unfortunate, like this industry can be a bit fickle sometimes. We have our up times, we have our down times. On your quieter periods, maybe without work for a week to a couple of months at sometimes, what do you find you do with yourself? How do you keep yourself active, or, I mean, keep yourself sane?
Yeah, for sure. For me, it's changed over the years, for sure. Like when I was younger and I was had no commitments and things, I would work to train, really. So I would just choose jobs that were not very committed so that I could just get up and go if I did get a job. So I worked a lot in cafes. And then in between those times, I would just try and be more casual so that I'd just earn enough to be able to live and train as much as I could and save a bit to be able to go and travel. And then the rest of the time I would train, really. So, you know, when I was younger, I would train usually anywhere between 4 to 8 hours a day. And I would break them up into structured blocks of, you know, usually an hour at a time, sometimes only half an hour at a time, of different art forms or different focuses. You know, one day, you know, 1 hour would be Muay Thai, 1 hour would be Kali, one hour would be partner work with someone, 1 hour would be, you know, break falls. And I would structure my days through doing that. And, you know, obviously when I was feeling just really tired and I couldn't do things, I would just take the day off and I would try and rehab and try and just relax and recuperate. But generally that was the way that I would do it. And I would film myself doing all the movements and film myself and access it and look at it and study it, cut it together, you know, and then just be working on different things about how to choreograph different fight scenes and just trying to like put things together with some friends back here. This was like before I broke through it all, like before my first time full job.
The structure sounds like the most important part there as well, because it's easy enough for everyone to say they'll train 4 to 8 hours a day, but having that structured 1 hour, different disciplines, the breakdown of your own movements, recording yourself. Are you saying that the discipline and the forethought of training is really important as well?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, you know, for me, I am a very sort of spontaneous, sporadic person. So I don't stick to structures too well if it's for long periods of time. Like, you know, anything over 8 to 12 weeks is a little bit harder for me to focus. So I try and, you know, build a general idea, 8 to 12 weeks of something, and then I consolidate it into maybe 2 or 3 week blocks. And then I consolidate that further into a week. And then I consolidate that further into the days of the week. And then I consolidate that into what I'm actually doing at the time.
Manageable bite-sized chunks, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think it gets overwhelming and you don't want to set yourself up for failure either too much.
Of course,
like,
yeah.
For me nowadays, I find it really hard to even get an hour of training in a day. You know, because of all my family.
Life gets in the way, huh?
Yeah, and it's so different. So the time that I delegate to that hour, I have to break up again into even smaller chunks and really put a focus on things. So instead of just going, okay, I'm going to train Kali, kickboxing, jump kicks, and break falls all in the 1 hour, I'll probably only focus on 1 or 2. And I'll focus on them for 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'll move on to something else, you know, and then just come back to that, but then build on it later on, if that makes sense. I think
absolutely.
Concentrated focus on something really actually helps you get things done a bit better.
Yeah, perfect.
I love that as far as the training breakdowns go as well. Now, unfortunately, it happens to the best of us as well, but there's quiet periods which we can't help with ourselves. We might be busy and we might get injured. How do you manage yourself during an injury? Because I know it can be quite a self-destructive time for people. They can be heavily affected by not having the training, and the mental health can take a real knock, and even just the lack of being able to do anything they love can really affect them as well. So how do you manage yourself during periods of injury?
Yeah, definitely. I personally know that it is very hard. It is very hard, but I think the main thing is trying to find support wherever you can, like with family, with friends, with different helplines if you need to or whatever. It's really important to know that you're not alone. I think that's the number one thing. And then from there, in the down periods, it is about accessing different things and different attitudes about your injury. You know, like you've hurt your foot, you've hurt your wrist, you've hurt your shoulder. What other things can I do? You know, I can't really walk too well, but I can still swing a stick. So maybe I can get a friend together to be able to just do some simple things with a stick work. Maybe I can just look up stuff on YouTube and just do some hand twirling drills. Oh, my hand's not good anymore. You know, maybe I can just educate myself on different ways of, acting, or if there's different things that I can understand about stunt work and different things that I'm going to do later on. So there's always stuff that you can study mentally, spiritually even, or physically, that you can work around whatever injury you're at. And it's really easy to say that. It's a lot harder to apply. So you've got to give yourself grace too, I think. And then some days are going to be better than others.
Yeah, preparing for them beforehand as well, because nobody prepares for when they are injured, but having that, even like you're saying, mental checklist or something like that, for knowing that there are a lot of different things you can do. And it sucks regardless, but yeah, putting yourself into maybe more the acting side of it, working on your Cali drills if you don't have your hands, and you can still work on certain kick drills as well. So it's not a good time, but you try and make the best of it. And then if you're struggling as well, like what you said, there's helplines out there, there's friends and family people reach out to.
Yeah, and you just got to keep looking at the cup that's half full, not half empty, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll bring this towards an end just now. I was just wanting to ask one final question. Now, we're seeing Australia have such a resurgence with a lot of stunt work just now. Maybe resurgence isn't the correct word, but it's really booming just now. I mean, Fall Guy was filmed here, and that's really shone a spotlight on Australian stunts. Is there anyone in the country that you feel like you should be keeping an eye on just now, or you see making real big waves, or anybody that you personally would like to work with in the future?
I'm not one too much of a fanboy or anything like that, so I don't really have a lot of people that I sort of go, oh wow, I'd really love to work with this person or that person or this director or that actor, because I feel like everyone has something to contribute and something to learn from. I really love that.
I think that's quite a healthy way of looking at it, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and opening myself to opportunities and things that can come into the spectrum of things. And, this industry, as you said, is quite fickle. You don't know what's around the corner. You don't know whether there's a recession or something that's the government just says, no, we're in cuts all funding, and you just don't have anything to be able to work on anymore. But it shouldn't stop you from honing your craft. And there's still so many other things that you can be practicing and training and getting better at, not just to get better at your profession, but for the love of it, to be able to build on and to create and build yourself as a person, I guess,
Yeah, I think that's a great thing to end on there, to be honest with you, Chan. Thank you so much for, firstly, allowing this podcast to happen, but also being the first guest on it. Is there anywhere you would like to send people as far as the Fight Creative resources go, any of your previous work or any upcoming work, any of your social media links as well?
Yeah, sure. I would like to thank all the stunt coordinators who's given me a shot over the years as well. I've been so fortunate to work with so many amazing people and learn so much from everyone as well. Thank you to Kyle Gardner especially. He's the one who has really built my career and made me who I am today. And it is so valuable to be able to get someone to be under them and have support from, not only as a mentor but a friend.
Amazing to have that relationship with someone as well. Yeah, you guys have worked together on so many different projects, and it's so nice to see that, well, you found each other. It's not necessarily even that he's given you a go, quote unquote, that you're working together in such a healthy.
Yeah, well, he would always say that, but I'm always very grateful, so grateful that he's given me so much. And I do feel like whoever you are out there, having someone above you that you can look up to and have a mentor and get advice from someone who can give you those things is so valuable and important. So very, very grateful for that. And, grateful for the whole team. I couldn't be who I was without my team. Anthony Rinner, even though I brought him up through the industry at the start with Nino, he has flourished and he has supported me so much over the years and created so much. Like a lot of the choreography that you see is a lot of him, I have my flourishes and things like that, but he's built so much of the choreography over the years and such a brilliant brain. But it takes a team to be able to make all of that stuff work together. So all of the team of, Kyle Gardner's team has really helped me a lot. And also Hits International helped me a lot from understanding stunts on a broader range of things. So being able to work for international teams is so valuable as well, if you can. But, if you do need advice, if you do need anything industry related or help with anything, please, I'm just an email away. You can just email me at the Fight Creative website, and I'm always happy to answer questions or help.
That's fightcreative.com as well, as far as the website goes.
Yes, you can just go to fightcreative.com, and we'll be building a bit of a blog there soon. There's a seminar that I've taught that teaches different basics in the film industry for fight stuff within film. And there'll be a lot of other things that are coming up through that platform too. We're doing a KIC program and BJJ program and
monthly newsletter as well, which is incredibly detailed and really does have a lot of helpful tips in it as well. So I would definitely suggest people subscribe to that. This will all be on the show notes for the podcast as well as Chan, your Instagram as well. I think that's a great way of people keeping up with you. And you've got Godzilla Kong's out just now as well, isn't it? And we've got a couple of other projects coming up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And, I wasn't the choreographer on a lot of films. I've been just performing and stuff. You can just check it out on my IMDb, what I was doing. I was performing on the next Mortal Kombat 2 as well, which will be great as well. So you should check that out. And
very exciting, yeah.
Very, very fortunate to be able to work under Michael Lear and Malai Kim. They were really great fight coordinators to work for, and I learnt a lot of them too. There's so much out there to do. Yeah, so get out there, guys, and learn stuff. It's the main thing.
Perfect. Check out Fight Creative as well. They'll be constantly updating with all of their stuff coming up too. But yeah, thank you so much again, Chan.
Thank you for hosting.